They read Stephen King and they say, I love what he does. I want to write like him. So they write their own novel, and then when they reread the first sloppy draft, they say, this doesn't sound at all like Stephen King. This part doesn't make any sense. I forgot I even put this character in there. The language is too much. It's too little. It's really messy. It's like life itself.
Stephen King asks, who are you when you write? What's your take on that?
When you write, and this is just my opinion, I do believe it's a practice of meditation. If you are getting to the level that you want to be, you actually lose yourself when you write. You cease being this little you with your identity and your preferences and I don't like this or I do like this. You just are. You're just your essence. All of the other stuff sort of falls away. That's where you really want to be when you're in the zone. And I think when writers are writing and they're just doing page after page after page, they're not self-conscious anymore. They're only conscious of being in the flow.
Since you brought up the topic of Stephen King, here's one more of his to throw into the mix. Any word you have to hunt for in a thesaurus is the wrong word. There are no exceptions to this rule.
Well, I might put a disclaimer in there, though. If you're a technical writer, if you're doing any sort of analytical writing, that might not be altogether accurate for you. The thesaurus might come in handy. If you're working from your intuitive side, the first word that comes to your mind actually usually is the best word. I think Stephen King is a very intuitive writer. Jack Kerouac, also a very intuitive writer. The first word that comes into your mind is the best word. So intuitive that he sometimes forgets about the analytical writers. I've heard him say, well, I don't know, my ideas just come. It's not even me. It's like this little elf comes out and writes masterpieces. And I understand that point of view, but there are a lot of writers out there who don't feel that way and who do work off of outlines, and they do plot their scenes ahead of time. And I have respect for that strategy as well. It all depends on the way you work and the way your personality works. I actually cover quite a bit about personality on my blog as well.
When you say intuitive, do you mean freestyle and not a plotter?
I do. I'm an intuitive writer. I have friends who are more analytical. I have a friend who outlines his entire novel first, writes the scenes according to the outline. I actually don't outline anything. When I start a novel, I have no idea how it's going to finish. I have no idea who's going to come into it. Characters usually just show up in my life and say, I have a story and I need you to tell it.
Tell me more about your latest novel.
My latest novel is actually the first literary fiction novel I've attempted. It's about a teenage boy growing up in Michigan in the 1980s. He's heavily immersed in the heavy metal culture at that time. Doesn't have a whole lot of money. He's in kind of a dangerous situation with a man who says he's his father, but is not his father. And he kind of has to make a really hard choice at the end of that. It's been slow going, actually. That novel has been giving me a lot of trouble. I'm not sure if it's because it's the first literary fiction, but I actually have been having a lot of trouble. I was having a really bad day writing this latest novel. The writing was not coming very easily. And I thought, I know I'm not the first person to struggle, and I'm just feeling so badly about myself right now that I really want to write something to other writers to let them know how I'm feeling and sort of tell everyone it's going to be okay, and also self-soothe. So I wrote what every writer should know. Writing is one of the most challenging pursuits on this earth. Creating and listening to your characters, putting in the hours of work to get their stories down on paper, the weeks of revision, the months of waiting for feedback, all of it adds up to what feels like superhuman amounts of energy, time, and effort. But if you were not meant to be a writer, you would never have the urge to do this kind of work in the first place. Yes, today's world is full of writers, and the publishing industry is undergoing a complete revolution. Yes, it's terrifying to put your work out there and be judged for it. Yes, you will question and doubt yourself, and you will wonder if you're going to make it. Yes to all of the above, and yes, you are still meant to be a writer. If you turn away from your gifts as a storyteller, you will always feel like something is missing. You will always dream that your life could have turned out differently, and you will always feel an empty place inside. The missing piece, the life that includes fulfillment, the sustenance to fill that empty place. All humans need stories. This is how we learn and grow. Stories connect us with each other, plant seeds of creativity and change, and personalize different perspectives. Without stories, humanity would be cut off from so many valuable opportunities. In order to move forward as a planet, we need stories to show us the way. Your life purpose as a writer is to pour your heart and soul energy into telling stories. It's an extremely important job. And the beautiful thing is that your stories can be about anything as long as they spring from your own unique, authentic voice. It doesn't matter if you're writing about slimy green space aliens with dozens of tentacles or pirates who fall in love with princesses. If you're writing as honestly as you can about the stories that show up inside your head, then you are doing your job on this planet extraordinarily well. Your path is not the easiest path out there, and sometimes it won't be very fun. A lot of other people won't understand what you are or why you are, or even the smallest thing about what you're attempting to do. You'll experience criticism and rejection, probably a lot of rejection, and the never-ending worry of self-doubt. But you were called to be a writer because you were born with what it takes. Somewhere inside of you burns the creative desire, the grit, and the guts you need to walk such a challenging path. Basically, it's like you're a warrior and a unicorn and a superhero all wrapped into one, with some bad days where you feel like you're the ugly little hamster that no one wants to take home from the pet store. But you have it in you. You really do. And we're in it together. That's what's so cool about there being so many other writers out there and the publishing industry changing every day. You can choose to see these things as competition and proof of scarcity, or you can see them for what they really are. More people on planet Earth who are kindred spirits to you, and more chances to find them. And let's face it, as warrior, unicorn, superhero hamsters, we always need to meet more of our own kind. Stay the course, keep writing, believe in yourself. Everything else is just details.
I hear the term literary thriller, literary fiction. Is there a definition of this term, or is it a loosely used term?
I actually worked in a bookstore for 4 years, so when I say literary fiction or mystery thriller, I really am thinking of where the books are shelved from a marketing perspective. People come in and they know what types of books they like. So somebody might really know they love thrillers. They're going to go to the mystery section every time. They probably won't go over to the literary fiction. If you say it's a literary fiction thriller, it kind of lets you know where it can be shelved. It can be shelved in a couple different places in the store. Now, things have changed a lot in the past few years with Amazon, so I don't know how the genres are going to play out in the future. But that's how I think of them.
Why is it not just called a thriller? Why would it be a literary thriller?
Well, with the literary thriller, you could shelve it in two different areas. So the people who like literary fiction will find it in literary fiction, which is kind of the big section in Borders bookstore, the big fiction section. And then the people who like mystery and thriller can also find it there.
So the term actually derived from the marketing side of life?
I'm not sure if that's where it derived from, but I know as a bookstore employee, that's what we went on.
Lauren Sapala, thank you so much for being with me today on the Eat, Sleep, Write podcast. I know my listeners will enjoy your work and your interview.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great fun.
If you're looking for a community of like-minded individuals who can offer support, tools, and advice about how you can start your own adventures in writing, prepare to have the cauldron of your imagination stirred. I started the Eat, Sleep, Write podcast for one purpose, to do everything I can to get your voice heard about your writing and get more eyes on your books. My goal is to do whatever it takes to help you achieve the success you so richly deserve.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Eat, Sleep, Write podcast, located at eatsleepwrite.net. Please send any questions, comments or suggestions to comments@eatsleepwrite.net. Please consider a donation to support the Eat, Sleep, Write podcast. Donations can be sent to our PayPal address at donations@eatsleepwrite.net. Once in a lifetime, the theme music for the Eat, Sleep, Write podcast, courtesy of Stephen Paul, all rights reserved, used by permission. Please join us again for the next edition of the Eat, Sleep, Write podcast.